everybody. Once again, this is Terry Blower South, mental health counselor with Agate Counseling, licensed clinician in the state of Minnesota. And today I want to talk about a word that I actually don't like. And that word is laziness. I don't like this word. I don't like lazy. I don't like anything in that family because of the way that it's oftentimes used. So, in my experience, the word lazy often gets used because somebody is passing judgment on somebody else's reason for struggling with doing something. I'm going to share a little example from my own life. For several years, I had an illness you couldn't see on the outside of me, but which is making me tired, putting me in pain, making it hard to focus. But it took several years to actually find out what the problem was. So for those several years, I couldn't tell anyone, oh, I'm sick. All I could say was, I don't feel well. And you better believe during that time, some of my supervisors thought I was lazy because, as far as they could see, I was just struggling to do things. I wasn't starting things. I didn't seem motivated. I never showed much enthusiasm. Sometimes it was hard for me to finish things that I had started, or I'd make mistakes that looked like I just wasn't paying attention. And I couldn't give them an explanation for why that was. So there was a time when I thought, maybe I'm just lazy. Have you ever thought that? Because I hear people say that a lot. I think a lot of the times when people think that they're lazy, what they're actually dealing with is that they have a problem that they haven't identified yet. Because let's look at what laziness actually is. Someone usually gets called lazy when they have a hard time starting things, or something about their performance seems to show that they're not focusing, they're not paying attention, like making a lot of little mistakes. Or maybe they start things, but they don't always finish them. They stop before the job is done. All of those can be symptoms, can be signs of a mental health problem or even a physical problem. But if we don't recognize what the problem is, a lot of times people just get called lazy. And a lot of times people get called lazy until they believe it. And this is where we come up with the part that I really have a problem with. Because once people start believing I'm lazy, what happens is we've turned a problem into a supposed personality trait. And most of us don't think a lot about changing our personality. Problems we might think about fixing. But if that's just who I am, I'm just lazy. I can't seem to stop doing it, so I guess that's just who I am. And usually, right about then, is when the shame sets in. Now, if you remember from some of the previous videos, shame is a problem because shame is the killer of motivation. Once I don't like who I am, I don't want to put in all that work to fix my life because I don't even like that person. Why would I put in all that effort to take care of them? Shame says you can't. Shame says it's pointless. Shame says you're not worth the effort. And the word lazy brings up shame for a whole lot of people. So I want to talk today about some things that might be getting in the way of starting things, focusing, or finishing things for you so that you can see, are you really lazy? Or do you have problems that just haven't been diagnosed yet that if those problems got addressed, you might have an easier time doing the things that you set out to do? Let's start with anxiety. Anxiety is one of the things that I see most often getting in people's way of starting and finishing things, which makes sense. If I'm anxious about something, I usually don't want to do it. So let's come up with an example. Let's say I need to put away my laundry. There's a pile of laundry on my bed. I got through washing it. But now I'm looking at this pile of laundry and I'm having the thought, I don't know where to put all of this. I have too much stuff. I don't have room for some of it. Maybe some of it should go away. Oh my gosh. Then I have to figure out what I need to get rid of. Is that shirt even mine? Maybe I need to give it back to somebody. oh, if anyone comes in and sees this laundry pile on my bed, I'm going to get criticized. As soon as I have any thoughts about perfectionism or not being able to do it, my stress is up. So if I'm sitting here looking at this pile of laundry, and every time I look at that pile of laundry, I have doubts, I have worries, my blood pressure's getting up, I don't want to look at that pile of laundry. Now, in a perfect world, that's going to motivate me to put the laundry away. But if I'm really feeling anxious, I just want to get away from it, right? That's what fear is going to tell me to do. Fear tells me to avoid danger. And if fear miscategorizes that pile of laundry as a danger, it's going to tell me to get away. So I'm just going to go watch another episode of something on Netflix and try not to think about the pile of laundry. Because when I think about the pile of laundry, instead of feeling motivated, I just feel flooded with anxiety. And probably hot on its heels, I might be flooded with shame too. Now, the good news here is that most of us know anxiety is not a personality trait. Anxiety is just a feeling. And lots of people go to therapy or get help to reduce an excess feeling. So if you've got too much anxiety doing things that you need to do, things at home, things at work, things with your family, that's something that you can work on. Because the laundry pile, probably not actually dangerous. So my guess is we could convince your mind, we could convince your body, your nervous system to relax about that. So that then, next time you have to do it, it doesn't seem so bad. Next, I want to talk about depression. Now, depression is interesting because a lot of people think, well, I've been sad, so I must know what depression is like. So I've been sad and I was still able to do things, but you're depressed and you can't do things, so therefore you're lazy. This is an example of someone not understanding what depression is. Depression isn't just a feeling. We all get sad sometimes, that's normal. We might feel numb or blah or unmotivated from time to time. That happens. But what depression does is depression lies. I actually have a little sign in my office that says depression lies because the lie of depression is this. Depression tries to convince you that not only do you feel bad right now, this is your life. You're always going to feel like that. Happiness isn't for you. Your life is hopeless. You're helpless. Nothing is going to be fun. You can't enjoy things, and probably no one wants to enjoy them with you anyways. That's depression's big lie. And if I have that lie whispering in my ear every day, yeah, it's going to be really hard to be motivated to get up and do things. Because if I feel like nothing in my life that I do is going to lead to me being happy, then it's going to be really hard to feel motivated to do it. That just makes sense. Additionally, I want to take a moment to talk about a neurotransmitter called dopamine. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter, it's a brain chemical. It occurs naturally in your brain that if anyone's heard of it, usually most people have heard of it as the happy chemical because it is associated with pleasure, with joy. It's also associated with motivation and having energy, which makes sense. You put those together, and it's the neurotransmitter that kind of helps steer you towards good things. Helps you go, oh yeah, that's a good thing. I'm going to do that thing. In many people with depression, there's not enough dopamine. Their system, for some reason or another, is not producing enough dopamine. So that when they look at that pile of laundry that we're going to come back to, they don't have that motivation. Oh, yeah, okay, I'm going to clean the bed and then I'm going to feel good. I'll feel like I accomplished a little something. I'll be able to tuck into my nice, warm, clean, cozy bed and feel nice. Instead, I'm going to look at that pile of laundry on my bed and just go, ugh, something else to do. I'm so tired. I don't want to do this. There's no point. I'm still going to feel crappy at the end, so why would I bother? Again, we have good news here. We're learning more about dopamine all the time, and there are things that we now know in terms of medication, in terms of lifestyle, in terms of thoughts, in terms of habits that can help affect your dopamine levels. So if depression is chemically interfering with your ability to do things, you don't have to give up on yourself. You don't have to call yourself lazy and feel shame. Instead, we can make some changes in your life, and pretty good odds, you're going to be able to tackle that pile of laundry, or whatever else it is that you're tackling. I want to wrap up talking a little bit today about ADHD, attention deficit hyperactive disorder. Now, if you're around my age, probably you're thinking, well, there's ADHD and then there's ADD. Well, in the 90s, that was accurate, but the most recent copy of the big book of disorders called the DSM just has ADHD now. It's all under one umbrella, and there's inattentive type and hyperactive type. What I'm going to say right now applies to both of those. So with ADHD, what we often have is people who, first off, might struggle with focus, right? I'm interrupting myself in the middle of a sentence, or I start putting away that laundry pile and I get distracted because there's also a mess on the desk, so I start dealing with that. But then, oh, right, hold on, I need to shower before I do this other thing, so I go shower, and nothing actually gets done. On the flip side, we have hyperfocus. I'm starting to put away my laundry, and I notice my sock drawer is out of order. So I think, well, now's a good time. I'll start organizing my sock drawer. And I start doing that, and time passes, and I forget about everything else going on around me. I forget that I was supposed to take a shower. I forget the thing I was supposed to do. People are trying to talk to me, and I'm tuning it out because my focus is entirely in on this one task in front of me. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up specifically is because a lot of people watch this and they misunderstand it. They think, well, if you could focus on this time, you should be able to focus on this other time. If you're not, it's because you just don't want to and you're lazy. Thing is, a lot of people with ADHD, they don't get to control when they're hyper focusing or when they're not focusing. It might be, it often is, that they can't even hyper focus on the things they want to do, the things they really like to do. They're just kind of surfing whatever tides their brain happens to give them. Now, what to do with that, I'm going to talk about in a later video, but the important thing to take away is ADHD doesn't have a handy on and off switch. Okay, so if that's something that you focus with, just because you can focus sometimes under some circumstances doesn't mean you're going to be able to focus all times under all circumstances, which we kind of know, but somehow we forget. As soon as compassion starts to run a little short and that word lazy comes out, all of a sudden we can forget that just because I can do something sometimes doesn't mean I always can. Again, there are techniques for managing some of these things, but on your own, it's probably going to be hard. If you haven't managed to figure out how to treat ADHD all by yourself, that's pretty natural. At least I think so. So the message I wanted you to take away from all of this is that what people call lazy is oftentimes just a problem that they don't understand. They're slapping a label on somebody, lazy, instead of thinking, why? Why is this person struggling with this thing? What's getting in the way? I believe most people are doing their best that they can in that moment most of the time. And if you doing your best most of the time still isn't getting you the life you want, then probably there's something in the way. If you're doing things that you don't want to, there's a reason behind it. And I don't think it's that you're lazy. So I'm going to close out the way I close out with all these videos. If all of this sounds familiar to you and you feel like this is something you want to work on, I'm asking you, please reach out to me or someone like me because there are a lot of us who are very willing to help you. On that note, I'm going to tell you, have a nice day. Thanks.